Hey, how you doing? It's Julie here. I'm hoping some people are going to join me live for this evening's webinar. I'm rather excited. You may have noticed this is not my normal backdrop. I am speaking at an event tomorrow in Bristol, so I'm staying at a friend's house tonight and delivering this webinar live from here in Bristol. So, how are you? Are you well? How often do you ask that question and you go, yeah, I'm good. And then you think, actually, I'm not that good. And actually, when you ask that question to other people, do you really care? Like, do you care whether they're well or not? Or is it just a kind of a nicety that we kind of say to each other as a kind of means of opening up a conversation? And when we think about kind of what we mean by wellness, are we talking about kind of, not being ill or not having anything majorly wrong? Or is it something more broader than that? Is wellness, a little bit more complex than whether we're just, well in health? So let me introduce who I am. My name's Julie Creffield, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Fat Girls Guide to Running and the 2 Fat to Run movement. I'm a plus size marathon runner and life coach. I'm known as the no bullshit life coach, and I help women to lead bigger lives. Now, sometimes people say, what do you mean by that? What does living a bigger life look like? Now, I never tell women what a bigger life looks like. I can tell you what my bigger life looks like, because it's all down to personal preference. But it's about kind of living a life where you are being true to yourself, to your values around who you are, and your desires, your goals, your dreams for your life. So I work with individual clients one-to-one, and I also run group programs, and I write books, and I speak. I'm a motivational speaker. Now, for this webinar this evening, we're going to go on for about an hour, probably about 45 minutes, and then I'll open it up for some questions. And what I'd love is for it to be a little bit interactive, because otherwise it feels like I'm just talking to myself. Now, I can see that some of you have joined, which is brilliant. So let me see if I recognize anybody. So if you can give us a shout out, say hello, tell me where you are dialing in from, and let's see who we have joining us live. And if I say things that you agree with, then give us a thumbs up or a kind of heart. And if there are things that I kind of get wound up about, you can join me with an angry face as well. Let's try and make this a little bit interactive. And actually, I'm going to be asking you some specific questions later. And I'm going to be giving some free stuff away if you stay right the way to the end. Hi, Samantha. Hi, thanks for joining us. Where are you calling from? Bournemouth, sunny Bournemouth. I love Bournemouth. Every time I go to Bournemouth, I make a point of running in Bournemouth. Not sure whether I'm going to fit in a run here in Bristol. I have a 20-miler this weekend, so I'm a little bit nervous of doing too much. Victoria says she's in Sussex. Nice. Now, I'm hoping we have some women join from some of my coaching groups. So the Clubhouse is my online running club, and we've just been doing a program called 100 Ways, which was a bit of a pilot, which I'll tell you a little bit about towards the end. So I'm hoping that I can see some familiar names and faces, but it's always nice to see some new women as well. So let's have a look. It's almost 5 past, so I think I'm going to dig deep into this evening's topic, which is all about finding your sweet spot. Now, for those of you that don't know my backstory, I found myself in a really challenging predicament a few years back. I had been made redundant for the 4th time in 10 years, and this time I was pregnant. And my life turned upside down. And, my life had always been a bit turbulent. Let's not get things twisted here. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I have known struggles. But I thought life was getting, I thought I was doing all right. And then, working in the public sector was difficult. I worked on the Olympics. After the Olympics finished, lots of people got made redundant. And I found myself with a newborn baby, no job, and about to lose my home. And I really had to look into myself to find a way out, of not only my financial situation and kind of where I was going to live and stuff like that, but I wasn't very happy. And if I'm being honest, I also wasn't very healthy. And I wasn't doing anything that particularly lit me up. Whereas, you know, fast forward 5 years, and, you know, by no stretch of the imagination is my life perfect. But I feel like I'm on a path now towards living the life that I was supposed to live. And I know that sounds a bit kind of like, the life I'm supposed to live. But when you do find yourself on that path, you'll know exactly what I mean, because you feel it. You feel like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So on that note, I want to kind of share with you a theory that I have, okay? So I have a theory that as women, and maybe there are some men on this call, but as women, I really think we know who we are and what we want when we are like 8 years old, 9 years old. I think that is the most clarity we have. Like, so if you take yourself back, and for some of us it might be longer than others, if you take yourself back to how you felt as an 8-year-old, the things you loved doing, how easy it was to kind of be joyful and to kind of make fun and you know, to follow your passions, how easy it was to speak the truth, even if you got in trouble for speaking that truth, and kind of how open we were to dream and want and desire. And then somewhere along the lines, as we kind of go to secondary school and life, I don't know, maybe just the life stresses and the reality of what being a woman in that kind of the world we live in is, maybe that strips some of kind of that away from us, that confidence, that self-assurity, that clarity over who we are. Now, the reason I say this is because, you know, if I was to describe what I do, I am a speaker, a writer, and an influencer, you know, a social media influencer, and a coach. And if I go back to what I was like when I was 8, and you'll have to picture this, I was all of those things. I was a born speaker. You couldn't shut me up. I loved being on the stage. Okay, it was through kind of dancing. I loved to write. I loved to read and I loved to write. And I influenced people. Like, you know, if I was to tell you about the little harebrained ideas that I come up with in my community as a kid, you know, I wanted to change the world. And then somewhere along the line, I lost all of that in my teenage years. I lost all of my confidence. So, you know, the work that I do now with with women, is to really help them connect with who that person was that they were as a child, and to look at how many of those kind of qualities and values they'd like to get back to now. So a lot of my work is helping women to work out, in a nutshell, what they want, and then look at how they're going to get it. Now, I think a lot of women are overwhelmed. I don't know. If you're overwhelmed, let me see if I can have a look in some of the comments here. If you are overwhelmed, tell me, yes, Julie, I am overwhelmed. It's quite tricky for me to see the comments, but anyway, bear with me. If you feel overwhelmed, just tell me, yes, I feel overwhelmed. And I think part of this is we're trying to be so many things to so many people. You know, we have jobs, we have caring responsibilities, you know, we have all these pressures to dress well, wear makeup, be well read, have social stuff to do, like do charitable work. Like, there are all these kind of different things that we're expected to be and do. And quite often, because of our kind of nature, we put other people's needs before our own. And I think if you do that for far too long, which a lot of women do, you lose sight of who you are and what you want anyway. It's like that film. I always love this reference, but not everyone gets it. There was a film called The Krays, not the new one, the old one. It's a film called The Krays, which is about the Kray brothers, the Kray twins. And obviously, because I'm from the East End, I quite like all that kind of gangster stuff. And there was a scene in it where the wife or the girlfriend goes, I don't know what I like anymore. I like what Reggie likes. And it always just really makes me laugh, because I think there are so many women like that, you know, after getting married or having kids or, you know, all of those things, careers where they're focused on pleasing other people, that if you ask them what they want for dinner or where they'd like to travel to or what film they'd like to see, quite often they don't even know what their tastes are anymore, because they're so used to putting everybody else's needs first. So In this webinar, I want to talk through some of the concepts that are going to be in my new book. So I've got a book coming out on the 1st of October called Living a Bigger Life. And these techniques, these concepts, these ideas are all of the things that I use when I work with women in my coaching groups, or if I work with them one-to-one. And I want to share some of them with you to give you kind of an insight into the way I work, but also to get you thinking about kind of things that you can implement. So hopefully this is going to be useful. So I think that, I asked you at the beginning of this, didn't I? How are you? Are you well? And, the wellness industry is worth billions of pounds. Everybody has their own idea of how to make you well, how to improve your wellness. And I think it's quite simple. I think there are 3 strands to wellness. And if you think of it like a stool, like a bar stool, and if you think of it having 3 legs, so the 3 legs of your wellness bar stool, let's put it that way, are health, wealth, and happiness. Now, people, whenever I say the wealth one, they're like, really? Does money really make you happy? I don't know whether it makes you happy, but it gives you choices. And, there's definitely lots of kind of evidence that says, people on low incomes and, with economic deprivation are at a health disadvantage. So I think, those 3 kind of pillars, I guess they're called, pillars of wellness: health, wealth, and happiness. Now, you can live on 2 of those, but you're going to be struggling, and things are going to go lopsided. And I don't think that those need to be equally balanced, but I do think you need to keep your eye on all of them. So I've come up with a kind of a visual way of showing you how this works. And I don't do like snazzy graphics and stuff like that because I'm not very techie, despite running 2 online businesses. I just thought, let's keep it old school. And let me show you my diagram. Isn't this cool? So up here we have the health circle, here we have the wealth circle, and here we have the happiness circle. Now, if you are focusing and making sure that each of these are being catered for, what you have right in here in the middle is your sweet spot. And I think when you hit your sweet spot, and it is a little bit kind of like gimmicky or concepty, but you will know. There will be moments in your life where you look back and you go, do you know what? I was doing all right then. Things seemed to work. I weren't overwhelmed. I had enough energy to kind of not only look after myself, but look after other people. And we can all look back to times in our life which were easier than what they are now, where we had more autonomy, where we had the ability to do things just for ourselves. And I think for me, it just kind of completely went over my head. It was probably in my kind of mid to late 20s where I had not money in the bank, but definitely money in my pocket, wide circle of friends, but I had a lot of hope. I think, like hope for the future. I didn't quite feel like an adult, and I had lots of choices. And then kind of different things kind of happened, which kind of took me kind of into areas of kind of depression and not looking after myself. Now, how do we use this diagram and how do we find our sweet spot? Now, when women say to me like, I'm not happy, things are not right, but I don't know what I need to do to rectify it. What I always try to do is to get them to think about what this sweet spot could look like. Now, for me, I have absolutely found my sweet spot, and I did it by accident. Okay. Now, this is how it works. So when I was in my mid-20s, I was hugely overweight and hugely inactive. So my health was absolutely suffering. I probably was earning the most that I'd ever earned and didn't have much outgoings. And I was reasonably happy. But what happened was my health was not failing. I mean, that sounds really dramatic, but I was very inactive and not really doing much. I was eating terribly. I just was really unaware of what a healthy lifestyle looked like. And it was starting to have a knock-on effect with my confidence. And a few things happened which then led to depression. And literally my health kind of nosedived, that's the word I'm looking for. And I think what happens in each of these kind of areas is that you either fill them up, with good health, and you either make sure that you're not skint and you do things to make yourself happy, so that's all about filling up those circles. but also there are things in your life that drain those circles, you know. So tricky relationships, difficult jobs, a death in the family, something to do with your health. You could have a health scare. Sometimes work stresses mean that your health suffers. Eating inappropriately. Same as wealth. When I lost my job, things changed rapidly. I mean, how many of us save properly so that if we lose our jobs, we're all right for a couple of years? We're terrible at that stuff, at that kind of stuff. So it's like a moving beast all of the time. And then once we get into this place where things feel a bit kind of shitty, we're like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And what we try to do is everything. We are, we're known as women, aren't we, for kind of multitasking. But I don't think we should be multitasking, because what we tend to do is do everything, but just not very good. And where I was really lucky, and this was absolutely a stroke of luck, is that I got into running. And the reason I chose running over any other activity is I was very kind of mindful of money. I was quite tight. I didn't want to pay for gym memberships or personal trainers. So I went for the thing that I thought was free. And I got into running. I wasn't very good at it. But what I realised, particularly after having my daughter, was it ticked a lot of boxes in terms of my happiness. So it meant this sounds awful, it meant I could get away from her. I don't know if any of you mums out there that remember what it's like to have a baby that, you're with 24/7. There was that, there was the social element, there was the being able to set and achieve goals, there was the travel. I got to travel a little bit, even if that was just in the UK. So running brought a lot of happiness to me. And then the final kind of, I guess, jigsaw piece was the minute that I turned my running blog into a business, because now I'm in the sweet spot, because that one activity, that activity of running, is improving my health, it's improving my happiness, it's improving my happiness, and it's also improving my wealth, because it's now my job. So I now have an incentive to keep doing that running activity. And I think this is where I do something called big fat stupid goals. And when women are like, I really want to focus on my health and improving my health, and I say, well, what have you tried in the past? And they'll stream off all these things. I've tried all these diets, I've hired a personal trainer, I've been to hypnotherapist, and they're focused on improving their health, and none of those things have worked. But when you set yourself a big fat stupid goal that at least covers two of these, you are much more likely to do it. So, for example, setting yourself a big fat stupid goal of running a marathon, there is no way you can train for a marathon without it improving your health. And if you are really clear on the reasons why you're doing that, in terms of goal setting or raising money for a charity, the health stuff almost becomes like a side effect of that activity. So yeah, I'd love to know. I'm just going to see if I can have a look in the comments, really. Yeah, look, lots of new people joining us. What do you think of this as a tool? Can you see how, if you were one of those people that's just a little bit stuck in any one of these kind of areas, that you could say, what, I'm not just going to focus on, sorry, this is back to front. I'm not just going to focus on improving my health, because there could be a knock-on effect to kind of the money that might cost me. And actually, when we talk about wealth, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the value that it brings into your life and kind of other measures of wealth. It's literally not just about money. It could be about lifestyle and stuff like that. So, I guess the question that we're asking is, how balanced do you feel in your life? Do you feel like each of those have equal priority? Do you prioritize one over the other? And lots of the women that I work with in my coaching groups find that their jobs are overwhelming, and that when you work, say if you work long shifts, for example, the amount of time that you have available to then prioritize your health is quite difficult. So I've just got some notes down here, and it says, I think the three reasons that women get overwhelmed. Firstly, that they don't have enough support, and mainly that's because they don't ask for it, if I'm being honest. Number two is that they don't have correct boundaries, so they say yes to everything. or they don't speak up when things are not working for them, and they have no plan. So we have, I think it's 110 days until 2019. Okay, how many of you, tell us in the comments, how many of you set a New Year's resolution? How many of you sat down in January and decided on what your intention was for the year, what you wanted to achieve, what dreams you were going to tick off of your bucket list? Did any of you do that? Did you set yourself targets for what you wanted to achieve, kind of, you know, at set intervals throughout the year? Did you make decisions to kind of drastically change your life, to move home, to move jobs, to start new relationships? Or did you do what a lot of women do, is say, yeah, I'd like all those things, but let me just get this week out of the way? Or, oh yeah, it'd be nice if I had the money to do it. Or when do I even get 5 minutes to myself to sit down and think about these things? And this is the reality of, many of the women that I work with. We have to make a plan. We have to ask for support, and we have to set boundaries for ourselves. And part of that is about working out what it is you want. So if I was to say to you, what do you want? What is the one thing that you want? Now, for me, and there's lots of comments there coming through. I don't know if there's a bit of a delay on here. Emma says she definitely has the boundary issue. Emma's a big planner. Yeah, quarterly targets are the way forward. Absolutely. So I'm a big believer in 12-week plans. So every 12 weeks I review my goals, and I suggest you do too. Now, with this kind of sweet spot thing, you might be thinking, okay, Julie, so you found your sweet spot, which was your running thing. I can't just quit my job and become an entrepreneur. I can't make these big changes. And the sweet spot stuff is not like you only get one chance to find your sweet spot, and if you can't do that, then you're in trouble. I think that this kind of concept can be used, to find little sweet spots in your life. So if you only have 1 hour a week that's for you, what can you do that combines the improving of your health, your wealth, and your happiness in that 1 hour? So, is going to bingo with your friends going to do all three of those things? Is training to climb a mountain going to do one of those things? And I think that's one of the lovely things about the Living a Bigger Life Mastermind, which I run, which is about kind of, some women have set massive goals. Some women have quit their jobs, gone back to university. Some women have, completely redesigned their lives. And others have focused on, I want to have better boundaries with my mother-in-law, or I want to declutter my spare room, which has been a mess for the last 5 years. So I think sometimes when people look at the work that I do, they think it doesn't apply to them because they don't believe that they're the kind of person that can set themselves big enough goals. Some women are say reasonably happy in their life, so they've got no major traumas, or no they're all right. But there's just this little niggling thing in their head which says, well, could I, be more? Could I do more? Could I have more? And I think as women, we're kind of designed with, been programmed to not want. I do believe that, to not want much for themselves. And we feel like it's selfish. It's selfish to want stuff for ourselves. Whereas I absolutely do not think it's selfish to want stuff for ourselves. So yeah, I'd love to know if any of that struck a chord. So I've got 2 questions for you. What was the biggest aha with all of that? I know I rushed through that a little bit, didn't I? I figured I would take a little bit more time with that, but I just was on a roll, and there I went. So yeah, what were your biggest ahas? So Jan says, that's me, no time to plan. Now, what do you have time for? So have a look at kind of what things do you do day in, day out that you do on automatic. And you do those things on automatic because you've made them routine, you've made them a habit. So you brush your teeth every day. You go to the toilet every day. You boil the kettle every day. Some people watch EastEnders every day. So have a think about how can you design, almost like kind of design into your life just a pocket for planning. And it doesn't need to be a kind of big at the kitchen table spreadsheets, stickers, vision boarding exercise. It can literally be on your bus journey. Can you make your bus journey, your train journey into work? Have a look at kind of where your dead time is in your week. And actually in the Living a Bigger Life Mastermind, we have a whole week looking at time management, and looking at kind of decluttering. And actually decluttering is something we can do across all the areas of our lives, because actually most of us will find that we have a load of crap in our lives, both physical and just stuff that we don't really need, that doesn't make us feel excited. So yeah, what's your big aha from that concept? Are you in alignment? Are you balanced, do you think? And then also let's have a look at these few more comments here. I wanted to be happier but had no clue what goals would make me happier, so didn't set any goals. Yeah, I mean, that's a real big problem. And one of the things that I do with women is really get them to think about the things that they've done in their life that have brought them happiness, the things that perhaps they wanted to do as children and never got round to. But also often when we think about setting goals, this is probably what happens, is we go, right, I want to set a goal. And then we think of a goal that's exciting. And then what do? We talk ourselves out of it, because we go, oh, I'd like to, and I'm using some examples here. I know what I'd like to do. I'd like to go back to tap dancing because I really enjoyed it as a child. And I know that there's tap dancing in the city that I live. That's what my goal is going to be. And then your brain starts working overtime and you go, oh, but I don't have any tap shoes. Oh, I wonder if they're going to make me wear a leotard. Oh, but I don't know anybody. Oh, but what about in the winter? Will I want to go after work? And before you know it, what do? You don't go. So we're great at talking ourselves out of these. So, yes, we need to have a goal, but we also need to set aside kind of actions, and look at the fear, because often a lot of our kind of procrastination and inactivity is based on fear. The media and probably ourselves will have us believe it's laziness. It's not. Often inactivity and inertia, is that the right word? I sometimes make up words and use them in the wrong context, but that kind of ability to kind of have all the big ideas and then never do anything about it is often to do with resistance and fear, and nothing to do with laziness. We just like to tell ourselves we're lazy. We go, oh, I'm just too lazy for that. I'd rather watch Coronation Street. So Jenny says, my intention for the year was to start a recorder group for adults, which would give me wealth and happiness. I now have 10 in my afternoon group, and tonight began an evening one. How cool is that? So that's Jenny is in the clubhouse. She's a lovely lady who takes action. That's brilliant. And yeah, it is finding those things. And, we are living in exciting times for women. The rise of the female entrepreneur is incredible. It's incredible to watch. And I'm not just talking about kind of online entrepreneurs. I'm not talking about women. I'm not talking about the Karen Brady's and the who's the woman who did the bras. I'm not talking about these big entrepreneurs. I'm talking about women that set up businesses of all scales, and not always for financial freedom. A lot of women are setting up businesses based on passions and based on, fulfilling lifelong dreams. I work with women who, have wanted to write a book for the last 10 years. And, I'll work with them to work out, okay, let's do it. Let's write that book. What are the fears? What are the kind of steps? What are the action points? Let's have a look. Mr. Starter's busy. You can catch up. Yeah, these will all be recorded in the group. Can you review the circles, please? Yes. So let me do these again. God, this is really back to front for me. So just to quickly recap on the sweet spot thing. I believe there are 3 core pillars to wellness. I don't believe they need to be in equal measure, but I think we need to keep an eye on all of them. And often when we feel a little bit out of whack, it's because one of them needs a little bit more attention. So they are health, wealth, and happiness. And for us to keep an eye on this and to get to this sweet spot, we need to be filling each of these up and keeping an eye on how these are being drained. And just like your mental health is not a stable thing, it's not like you're well or you're unwell. Throughout your life there are peaks and troughs, and I think that's the same with wealth. And actually, I haven't got another whiteboard to show you. Let me see if I can. I'll do it on this one. But one of the other techniques that will be in the book, actually, which it's a bit difficult to show on this, but it's a really useful exercise to do, is basically you look at your life's journey, your life story. And what you do is you say, right, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and looking at 5-year increments, you can look at all 3 of those things. So you can go, what was my health journey? So what was my health journey look? What did my health journey look like? So at the age of 5, so if that's 5, 10, 15, 20, and you go up to however old you are now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how healthy was I as a 5-year-old? How healthy was I as a 10-year-old, 15, 20? So, and actually in my book, I give an example of mine. So on a health basis, so if I started up here and maybe went down there, went up a little bit there, up, down there maybe, and then up. And the idea is to keep going up. So that's your health one. Maybe you could then do one for wealth. So what was your financial abundance and, your value, your assets? How has that panned out for you? So, you don't really have much as a 5-year-old, but maybe you were born into wealth. So let's just have a look here. Let's have a look. That probably went up a little bit there, went up a little bit there, went up a little bit there. And then it shot all the way down there when I got made redundant. And slowly I'm building myself back up again. Okay, and then the happiness one. So how happy was I? I was really happy as a 5-year-old, really happy. And then kind of got a little bit sad when my mum and dad got divorced, and then got really sad as a teenager, got stroppy and thought no one understood me, and then got a bit happier when I went to uni, and then suffered with depression, and went back up again when I had my daughter, and then went back down when my relationship broke. So you look at this, and then what is really cool about this graphic, and obviously it's not completely accurate, is you can then look at pinch points. So look, what happened around that time? This convergence of all this stuff going on. And actually, if I'm being honest, around my early 20s was when my health really started to suffer, when it wasn't okay for me to be carrying the weight I was without doing any exercise, where really I needed to be looking at my values in life and looking about like what I wanted and where I wanted to achieve. And probably if I'd made some different decisions there, my life could probably be a little bit different now. But I don't think this exercise is there, and I write a lot about this in the book. These kind of reflective exercises are not for you to kind of beat yourself up. They're not like to put shame and blame and look at other people who were involved in those situations. It's just so you have some awareness. So you go, okay, now I understand. And then you can look for patterns. So if the last few times your wealth took a bit of a dive, your health went along with it, then you're going to be a bit more mindful if you ever do come into financial problems again, to make sure that you look after your wealth, your health, basically. So yeah, in the new book, there's lots of kind of graphics like this that help you to kind of make sense of your wellness. So I'm just going to have another quick look at the comments here. I will, when we're finished on the webinar, I'll go back and go through it. Victoria says, I plan for my team of 30 every week, plus term, plus almost 200 learners with learning difficulties. Doesn't happen at home though. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Many of us who do planning for work find it really hard to plan for life. And I think the best way of doing this is to try and combine them and to work on a similar time frame. So if you're doing monthly planning for work, then have a think about how you do that. And actually, if you're in the Clubhouse, there are a range of planning documents that you can download. Let's have a look. Mardo says, I'm too bad at setting goals. I'm not too bad at setting goals. It's sticking at work. It's sticking to them. Sorry, I can't read that properly. It's sticking at working towards them that's my problem. I'm definitely a procrastinator and would say I'm lazy. I reckon there's probably a lot of fear going on. It's probably a case of a lot of women are actually fearful, not of failure, but of success. Because we say, oh, you know, I've done it in kind of my, you know, with my business. I'll, you know, launch a book and go, oh, I really want it to be successful, but not too successful because, you know, people might think I'm, you know, who does she think she is, bit big for her boots and all of that kind of stuff. Because we do think, you know, if you know, what would that change mean? Because come on, we are creatures of habit, and even when our lives are a bit crappy, there is a bit of comfort in that crappiness, if that makes sense. And we're a bit like, oh, you know, if my life was, if I earned more, if I was slimmer, if I was healthier, if I was happier, would I still be the same person? And would the people around me like me in the same way that I am? Good question, Jenny. So Jenny says, if your health is down and you have no way of fixing that, any hints for balancing the rest? I think there's an element of being grateful for the body that you have. So even with health ailments, because, and actually I write a lot about this in the book, there is, I think health has become political. We are, well, I am sick of reading the headlines in the newspapers that talk about kind of the impact of people's bad health choices on government resources and all of that kind of stuff. Some people have no say over their health. Some people are born with disabilities. Some people get life-changing diseases. Some people, yes, they have lifestyle-related diseases. We live in a fast-paced world where everything's changed. You know, the rate of change in the last 100 years with our how busy we are, the types of jobs we do, the type of food we eat, the environment that we live in, you know, the impact that technology has had on us. Some of those things have been done to us. We didn't have a choice. Our children didn't have a choice being born into the world of technology that exists now. Yet we are expected to be able to evolve and to maintain a level of health, which for many of us is beyond our control. You only have to go into a supermarket. You know, you go into any big supermarket and you walk up, and I would implore you, is that a word? I would encourage you to do that. Next time you go and do a big food shop, go into the supermarket and walk up and down the aisle and try to work out the percentage of unprocessed food. So food that's had nothing done to it other than it being kind of, you know, taken from the ground or whatever you see as unprocessed food. We are expected to self-moderate and to manage what is a scientific minefield over what we eat, and yet we are shamed when it affects our health. So, you know, it's a complex life that we live in. So I think one of the best things we can do for our body is learn to love it in whatever state it is now. And I use that word purposefully because I can remember thinking, you know, when I was at my biggest, when I was at my most unhealthiest, I'd go, I hate my body. Look what I've done to it. I've wrecked it. It doesn't work the way I want it to work. That wasn't helping anybody. It didn't shame me into changing. It didn't shame me into treating myself better. The only way I treat myself better these days is by loving the body I'm in, loving the skin I'm in. And that doesn't mean that you don't want to change it. You know, and people often say, well, that doesn't make sense. You know, this whole body positive movement doesn't make sense because, you know, how can I love the skin I'm in and still want to change it? Surely it has to be one or the other. And if I'm body positive, does that mean I can't change? And do I just let myself go and just eat the foods that I want? And I think that's a really simplistic way of looking at it. Think about it like a room in your home or your home. You know, you might love your home, but just not particularly like the decor. Maybe you liked the decor 10 years ago when it first got done and it needs some changes, it needs some tweaks. And I think that is how we need to look at our bodies. We need to love ourselves so radically the way we are so that we can then make the small changes and the incremental improvements to our health as and when we can. It's difficult. If you've got ongoing health problems, it is really, really difficult. But you can focus on you know, the impact of self-care, you know, nice things that are going to bring you joy, things that are going to help you to relax. The impact on that kind of to holistically how well you feel shouldn't be underestimated. Most office jobs are bad for our health. Absolutely. And interestingly, I've rubbed it off now, haven't I? But that free circle thing, when I come up with that, just the irony, whenever I write a book, it's always like self-therapy, because for me, the sweet spot is the running stuff and the fitness stuff, because it enables me to keep all of those things going. And I was thinking, does writing do the same for me when I'm writing books? It absolutely doesn't. And I tell you why. When I write books, I write them really quickly, which means I have to spend a lot of time at my desk. And what happens when I get engrossed into my writing is I don't look after myself. So at the moment, my neck's hurting because I'm always like this. I haven't been fueling myself as well as I could. My marathon training has suffered. My social life has suffered. I'm just not doing anything other than working, really. And I get completely stressed over the deadlines. So writing my books is absolutely not in my sweet spot. Now, what that does is it tells me it's not that I'm going to stop writing, but what it means is, because I've identified that it's not in my sweet spot, it means I can't do it all of the time, because otherwise I would absolutely go nuts. But it also means that I need to take better care of doing some of the preparation stuff. So, making sure I set alarms to get up from my desk, making sure I've got healthy food in the cupboards. And actually on Monday, I'm going to be doing a review of a delivery service. So for the last 2 weeks, I've had a really healthy food delivery service, because I've not been taking care of myself while I've been writing my book, which, the irony of that. Any more questions? So, goodness me, we're 40 minutes in. So I did say, if you stay to the end, I've got some nice little bonuses for you. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. Feel free to keep posting questions in the group and I'll carry on answering them. There are 2 things coming up that I want to let you know of. The Living a Bigger Life Mastermind is something that I do 3 times a year. We are on the 5th cohort. And it's a lifetime access program. Now, what that means is it means you pay once, and once you've paid for it once, you can do it as many times as you like. So we've got women that were in the first cohort that have literally done the program 4 times now, and each time they're focused on a new goal. And it's a 12-week program that, in a nutshell, it's about helping you work out what you want from your life and then helping you work out how you're going to get it. And it's about living your biggest, most purpose-filled, most adventurous life, whatever that means to you. As I said, it's a 12-week program, and it's on special offer at the moment. It's the early bird is until the 21st of September, which is next Friday. If you are interested in that program, feel free to send me a Facebook message if you've got any questions. I'll put the link in the group as well. But anybody who signs up before 6 o'clock tomorrow, I will also throw in a 1-hour deep dive Skype session and a free copy of my new book when it comes out on the 1st of September. So that's the Mastermind. We've got 7 women signed up for it, and we can take up to 25. So there are still some places. And there is a payment plan. So the price for that is £497. It's normally £597, and there's you can pay in 3 installments. And then the second offer that I have for you is that I do a retreat every year in Rhodes in Greece in May. Okay, and it's almost sold out. I've got 2 places left, I think. And every year, so I've been doing this retreat every year for 3 years, and every year, the teachers in my groups I have lots of teachers go, it's not fair, it's during term time, I can't come. Can you do something in one of the half terms instead? I wanted to do a retreat in the October half term. I've not been able to find the right venue. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is some one-to-one sessions, as like VIP half-day sessions. Now, these will be kind of deep dive, helping you to work out what you want. So if you're struggling with setting your goals, what I'll do is work with you to kind of look at, you know, what's working in your life, what's not working, and how we can use the goal setting process to help you become a bit more balanced. They'll take place in the Olympic Park in East London, and I have 10 of them available. 2 of them have gone today. They are £179, and I will throw in lunch. They're normally £299, and as I said, there are 8 left during the October half term, which I don't have the dates for because I'm rubbish with dates, but I know I have places left for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday. Both of the Thursday sessions are gone. And if you sign up for that, for the one-to-one stuff, and you like working with me and you would like to do the Living a Bigger Life course, I will knock that price, the 179, off of the January cohort. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to put all of these details in the comments. Yeah, so those are the 2 offers, and I did promise that I would give away something for free. So this book here, it's an oldie but a goodie. So this was the first non-running book that I wrote. It's called New Year, Same You. It's all about why I don't set New Year's resolutions. It's called A Guide to Health and Happiness at the Size You Are. It's got loads of 5-star reviews on Amazon. It knocked, what was his name? Joe Wicks. It didn't knock Joe Wicks off the #1 spot. Joe Wicks knocked me off the #1 spot, and if it wasn't for him, this would have been #1 in the health category. But anyway, I've got 3 copies of these to give away. If you haven't got a copy of this and you would like a copy, or you'd like a copy to give to a friend, just type in the comment to say I would like the book, please, and I'll do a prize draw I'll do it at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, giving people time to watch the catch up, and I can dedicate it to whoever you would like me to. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, I'm around for a few minutes longer. Hi Bettina, it's lovely seeing some familiar faces here. Lots of ladies from the Clubhouse and from the Living a Bigger Life Mastermind. Let's just have a look if there's any more comments. Rita says it's a brilliant book. I agree with you, Rita, it is. It is. It was, and actually this book, which was, when was it written? I think it was written 2 years ago. Yeah, December 2015 I wrote it, and this book was absolute therapy for me. It really got me to think about what health and happiness was. The new book, Living a Bigger Life, which is all about ditching the diet mentality and living kind of your bigger life, it's less about dieting actually, and more about kind of, I guess, more about kind of quite feminist ideas. But I'm not an academic, so it's all lots of kind of real life stories and concepts and ideas, rather than the kind of academic style feminist stuff, which goes over my head a little bit. So it's much more kind of practical. And the new book has something called check and challenge. So throughout every chapter has 3 or 4 check and challenges, and what they are kind of activities or tasks where you can go away and write down notes, or go out and actually try things and feed back into the community in terms of how you get on. So let's just check any questions. I'm glad lots of people would like a copy of the book. So Jenny says, when's the new book out in the real paper version? So the Kindle version is available to pre-order, and it comes out on the 1st of October. Normally the paperback is available about 10 days after. There's just a little bit of a delay for that to be ready. So yeah, unless there's any more questions, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for joining. I hope you found that useful. I'm going to be doing another one of these next week, and it's going to be called How to Get What You Want. All right, and it's going to have a really, I'm going to share with you something that I do every 12 weeks, which is, not only is it a great way of getting what you want, it's really good fun. So hoping you can join me again at 8, and hoping, I've been using a new bit of technology tonight which posts this out to all of my groups, so I'm hoping that means that it's stored in all of the groups that you're in, and that if you weren't able to watch it live, you're able to watch it on the catch up. As I said, I will continue to look at the comments So even if you're watching this on catch up, do feel free to write the comments. I wish I hadn't have wiped that off of the board, because I would have finished off by showing you it again and just reminding you to really think about that question. You know, are you well? And if you're not well, which of those 3 core areas should you be looking at, and how can you find that sweet spot? Okay, enjoy the rest of your evening, ladies. Thank you for joining me live if you did, and for watching the catch up if that applies to you. And yeah, any questions about the 2 offers that that I talked about, then just do feel free to send me a DM, kind of a direct message. Both of those offers are valid until 6 p.m. tomorrow, which is Friday. All right, have a good evening, and I'll catch you later. Bye.